It's time to accelerate. Hi, I'm your host, Andy Paul. Join me as I host conversations with the leading experts in sales, marketing, sales automation, sales process, leadership, management, training, coaching, any resource that I believe to help you accelerate the growth of your sales, your business, and most importantly, you. Hi, welcome to the show. Today my guest is Lori Richardson, founder and CEO of Score More Sales. Lori is also president of Women Sales Pros. So Lori, welcome to the show.
Hi, Andy. It's great to be here.
So rather than have me lead off with some sort of standard biographical sketch of you, I'll let you fill in the blanks. So, take a minute and introduce yourself.
Sure. So I am in the Boston area. I work with mid-sized companies and more smaller mid-sized companies and larger SMBs on attracting customers, so prospecting, as well as leadership for the frontline sales managers. And I've been doing this for about 12 years. Before that, I was a bag carrying sales rep myself, inside, outside, sales manager. And I've earned some scar tissue in doing that. And it helps me to be authentic when I talk with salespeople about how to do their job.
Well, so where'd you get your start?
I started actually, to go back, I started in a family-run business. My grandmother had a women's apparel store, a fine women's apparel store.
Does that mean lingerie or dresses?
No, it was dresses, high-end dresses, coats, things that her competitor in the Seattle area where I grew up was Nordstrom.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a very small shop, but she didn't discount. So that was a really good lesson to learn early. And she built a clientele that was just amazing and really stood up for what she believed in. And I know, now that I got a lot of that from her.
Very interesting. So what was the sales process like?
With her?
Yeah, with her dresses.
In the clothing store, well, she had 2 sales a year. So we sent out postcards that were hand addressed to thousands of people, and that was the only time that she ever had anything other than at full retail price. And people came from far and wide to visit with her, and she just had an amazing group of customers and reputation in her field. So,
And so your first professional job in sales was?
Right. So then I became a teacher. Then I became a single mom. And rapidly, all these things were happening to me.
Right.
And I could not support my family on my low wage teacher income. So I actually went into a non-traditional program for women where I did scaffolding and I poured cement and
Wow.
did all these different things because I wanted to be paid what my male counterparts were making. I wanted to make good money supporting a family. And it was just coincidence, just kind of happenstance that my favorite thing that I saw was electronics technology. So I went ahead and got a degree in electronics technology. And then I realized I'd be working, doing a lot of repetitious work with items and not people. And I'm really a people person. So I stumbled into the idea that maybe I could sell something that was electronic, and got into the boom of the microcomputer era in the early 80s. And that's what propelled me forward. It was fabulous. So it was intentional that I would be in sales, but it was not intentional. My path took a few twists and turns, but ultimately I was happy to get there when I did.
So what was that first job?
First job was I took phone calls. We called them red calls at the time, and calls that came in from people looking for computers and computer hardware and systems and solutions and things like that. And it progressed into, it was retail, and then it was corporate accounts,
right?
Then enterprise management. And I worked with a number of different manufacturers such as IBM and Apple and Hewlett Packard, some really fine companies, got excellent sales training.
And so after that, then where'd your career take you?
Then my one child went to the East Coast And I, at that point, had the opportunity to start my own business, and I did support for sales teams. So
Mm-hmm.
I helped get appointments and things like that. And once my son was headed to college to play Division I hockey, I realized I needed to be there to see that. And so I moved to Boston and got a job building a sales team. So I built an inside sales team and then ultimately created a corporate university for the same company.
Aha. And so that then led you to doing your own thing.
Yeah, then I moved back to Seattle after 4 years of watching college hockey, which is great. I
Yeah.
encourage everyone to do that if they have a chance. And then I started Score More Sales.
And you ended up back in Boston somehow.
Yep, ended up back in Boston because the same child ended up having a family.
Ah, there we
so
go. That's good.
so
Good motivation.
yeah, 3,000 miles is too far away to be. So packed it up and came back. And of course, having a consultancy allows you to be just about anywhere you want, which is great.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I know that lesson firsthand. So, what's the sort of the major changes you've seen take place in sales over the course of your career?
Well, I think it's the obvious things that people have talked about ad nauseum over the last few years, which is the fact that sales changed and that we really did used to control all the cards. When I started in my sales career, customers came to us and if they were lucky, they would, get on our radar and get our time and our help. And, it's just total opposite now. Now, if the seller's lucky, they'll get in front of the buyer. So it's been quite interesting to watch that and to see how sellers can help position themselves so that they don't feel like they're at a disadvantage, and they're not at a disadvantage.
Right. And so, what have the changes been for women in sales over that period of time?
It's interesting. I've always worked in a more male focused environment. So I've often been the only woman or maybe one of a few. All the sales forms, years ago always said salesman number.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd put my number in, and all the rewards had to do with,
Salesman of the year.
cigar bars and
Yeah. Strip
hard
clubs.
liquor and golf and things that I wasn't so fond of. But today I still run into a lot of areas where there are not a high proportion, even an equal proportion of women to men in terms of sales positions, and certainly sales leadership is very light on women. So that's a bit concerning here in 2015.
Yeah, and so I guess there's two questions. One is sales still sort of like a lot of the engineering professions where there just aren't that many women that are being attracted to it, or they're just not being given the opportunity, or it's not being made to look like it is an opportunity for women.
Well, I had the pleasure recently of meeting a couple of gentlemen who are building sales programs at universities.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was saying that the parents more than anyone influence kids on what courses to take at college and what to major in. So many people would not think of sales as, the number one thing on their list for what they want their kids to do when they have their professional career, because of just the bad press, the bad sales examples that we've seen over the years. But when they do, and he gave an instance of a young woman who was attracted to the sale. There was a kiosk where they were talking about different majors, and this school has a major in sales.
Mm-hmm.
And so the young woman dragged her mom over, and she said, I'd really like to look into this. And her mom said, oh, not sales. You don't want to do that. And she said, well, just, be open-minded. And so they talked and engaged a little bit. And it was just more of an opportunity to learn that, this is a very awesome profession. I can't think of a better profession for young people to get into, because no matter what you do the rest of your life, it's going to involve some selling.
Oh, absolutely. But also, it seems like to me that from the perspective of women compared to so many other careers where gender politics sort of enter the equation relative to promotion and advancement and so on, is at least in sales whether you succeed or not is fairly objective. I mean, I know there are other factors that control
Yeah.
whether or not you're put in a position to succeed, but in the main, given an equal opportunity, it's all about what you do.
And that's exactly why I got into sales. I made an intentional decision to do that, and I wanted to be paid for my efforts. So, other than not negotiating a high enough salary the first time I came in, that's one thing women don't tend to be as strong at as
Right,
men.
right.
Other than that, I made the money that my counterparts made, and I loved that, and I loved striving to be in the top 10, whenever I could, even as a single mom. I loved the competition.
So, do we know, any statistics about whether, if more or fewer women are choosing to enter sales now, especially, the generation generating from college right now?
Yeah, it's great that you asked that because it's so hard to get statistics on sales, particularly I think you and I are talking about B2B selling.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So government reports, kind of lump in different types of selling. There's selling to consumers and things like that. LinkedIn did a survey of women in sales a year ago, and they did it based on names, by looking at names and identifying if it's male or female.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's nothing comparative. So I think we have a long way to go in terms of having some answers. But we know that the number hasn't grown from what we are familiar with in the past. I would say, I've seen between 25 and 35 or so percent of sales roles, B2B sales roles, are with women.
Mm-hmm.
But as you and I were talking about, it depends on the industry as well. So technology is very light on women sales reps
Right.
and very light on sales leadership for women.
Yeah, and it seems like that, again, this is just sort of personal experience, is that with the sort of the move to inside sales, at least or maybe the formal categorization of inside sales, so as I like to say, it's been going on forever. And this formalization of this role of the sales development rep, that, my talks with a lot of companies that are in that space that are employing heavy SDR teams and scaling their SDR teams to build their business, not a lot of women.
Yeah, and it's funny because one of the new services we're going to be offering on the Women's Sales Pro site is companies are coming to us saying, we want some women in the sales role. Can you help us get the word out? And it's not because they think it's the right thing to do. It's because it's ROI. They know that a balance of men and women on their team is going to be better for their company, and they
Mm-hmm.
know that women bring different skill set. And I'm really excited about that, to hear that people are really standing up and saying, well, we're looking for women. If you know any good candidates, please send them our way. And that's great.
And who's driving that?
Who's driving it? Actually,
Yeah,
the first company that I talked to about that with was Pipeliner Sales,
sure. Familiar with them.
Nicholas Kimla,
Right.
and the effort to,
So coming from the CEO.
yeah, from the CEO. And I've talked to multiple companies since then that are saying the same thing. So it's phenomenal for me. I heard Senior VP of Sales Shep Maher from GuideSpark in the Bay Area
Mm-hmm.
give a talk at Sales Hacker, and one of the pieces he talked about was improving diversity on the sales team, and I thought that was phenomenal. So it's not just women talking about it anymore.
Well, it's good because I think that one of the things that drives it, and that's why it's good to see Nicholas get behind this, is that especially in smaller enterprises, that oftentimes the CEO, who's intimately involved with the hiring, they tend to hire less, unfortunately, less about skill set and experience and more about people they're, I don't know, say a comfort level with, right? People
Yeah.
more like themselves.
Yes. Yep.
And as a result, they don't tend to broaden their horizons in terms of the type of candidates they're willing to consider.
Yeah, and I wouldn't go as far as some of the people I've talked with. I think one of the people that comes to mind, Ken Krogh,
Yes.
co-founder of Insight Sales, who insists that women are better at sales than men. I won't go that far, but I will say we have different skills. And the blog post that Jill Conrath did a while back called I Sell Like a Girl" is a good
Mm-hmm.
overview on that, on some of those skills that we're talking about.
Exactly. Well, good. So we're going to take a short break right now, and we'll be back after that my guest today, Lori Richardson, founder and CEO of Score More Sales and president of Women Sales Pros. And we'll talk about Women Sales Pros after the break. Hi, this is Andy. Connect and Sell is used by sales reps at nearly 1,000 companies, including hundreds of technology startups and several Fortune 500 companies, to overcome the challenges of getting prospects on the phone. Companies using Connect and Sell grow their revenues faster by enabling their sales reps to have more sales conversations in 90 minutes than they could otherwise achieve in an entire week. Connect and Sell can be deployed directly to your sales reps, or you can take advantage of their outbound on-demand service, which delivers qualified prospect meetings scheduled directly on your sales reps' calendars. Visit connectandsell.com to learn more about how Connect and Sell can start filling your pipeline today. Okay, we're back with Lori Richardson, founder and CEO of Score More Sales, president of Women Sales Pros, and I want to talk about Women Sales Pros now. So tell me about this organization, how it got started, and sort of what its mission and goals are.
Sure.
And what you're sort of doing to help those along.
Sure. Women Sales Pros it was actually started by Jill Conrath in about 2007 or 2008 with a different name. It was called Sales Shebang because Jill wanted to have a conference where it was women sales reps, and she wanted to have all women speakers.
Mm-hmm.
She and I have been going to conferences, as you have too, Andy, for many years, and for the longest time, we would just see this pattern where there might be one woman speaker on the main stage and maybe a few in breakouts, but never on the main stage. And if there was one woman, often it's a marketer or it was someone talking about style. And it rubbed us wrong because we know that there are some great speakers and authors, and we just wanted a little diversity. So Jill started with that, and a couple of years ago she handed it over to me because she's busy, giving her keynotes and
conquering the
writing
world,
books and all that. So what I did this year was we transformed it to Women Sales Pros. It resonates with people, and the idea is to be a single place where people can go to find women sales experts, but also it's a place where you can go to get information, ideas about selling. And we hope that it inspires women in sales and women sales leaders. So to that extent, we're starting to add a new series of interviews with women sales leaders. And we'll be doing more with that as time goes on. And in November, we're going to have a virtual summit and have a lot of exciting things coming up. We have in October 1st, we're having a sales leader summit, which will be in Chicago. So that should be exciting too.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about that, because I saw that on the website.
Yeah, October 1st from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. at the Chicago Hyatt Regency O'Hare. We will have Jill Conrath as a keynote. Trish Bertuzzi is going to be our closing keynote. We'll have a panel and a few other speakers, all talking about real tangible takeaways for sales leaders to hear about. And we have leaders coming from the Chicago area, but we also have a good handful flying in from other places because we'll have our sales conference for our women sales pros the next 2 days. So we have this whole group of knowledge, at our fingertips, and we thought, what a great idea to have an event with it.
Well, that sounds good. And then the virtual event?
Yes, the virtual event is going to be November 11th, and we'll have more information on the Women Sales Pros website as time goes on.
And that is women, plural women, womensalespros.com.
Womensalespros.com.
Right.
Yes. So women.
Women, yeah, I said plural.
Yeah, frog protection.
That's right. You said fraud, right?
Yeah.
We watch the same commercials on TV, apparently.
Yes.
So let's get back to your sales now. So tell us about the biggest failure you've had as a salesperson or a sales manager. And what was the lesson you learned from it?
One of the first things I thought of when you said that, and I've had many failures in a long sales career. There were peaks and valleys for sure. I can think of a time where I worked so hard on a big multi-million dollar opportunity and thought I had covered all my bases, but my competition had gone to the decision directly to the decision maker where I hadn't. And at the 11th hour, I lost a huge, huge deal. And I just remember what a lesson that was. It was too difficult to think about for a while. But eventually, you have to call high and you have to have all the people involved. You need to know who all those people are in the decision making process and reach out to them in some way.
Yeah, so really, in fact, you probably didn't lose it at the 11th hour, you probably lost it earlier because you
Correct.
were never in touch with the decision maker, right?
Yes, I was just informed at the 11th hour. You're,
Exactly.
you're right.
Yeah, yeah. No, I had a deal like that too. Again, a very large opportunity. There, we were competing against the incumbent. We had, oh my gosh, such a technically superior solution to the
Yeah,
incumbent who was basically doing nothing. But we
yeah,
didn't realize we were being used as basically a way to whip the incumbent to give them a lower price. And the
yeah.
customer didn't care about the technology that much as they care about the price. And yeah, if we had been a little more diligent, that's the lesson I learned early in the career, is they were just playing us along. And I wasn't continually sort of requalifying the prospect to make sure that we were really on track. And
Right.
yeah,
And
those things
what's
hurt.
so funny about that, as I'm sure you see too, is that that exact situation still goes on. That's something that has not changed with time.
No, well, I think it's human nature, right?
Yeah,
I mean, especially when you think that things are going your way, yet you sort of have a suspicion there's somebody else you really need to be talking to.
yeah,
People tend to gravitate toward their comfort zone.
yeah. And I just think it's a good example of how, people are looking for the latest, most cutting edge tools and information. And there's a good set of knowledge about situations like that is pretty much timeless.
Yeah, well, and that's what I tried to address with my books, and especially my first book, Zero Time Selling, is like, yeah, do whatever you want in terms of the complex sales processes and so on. But if you aren't mastering these 10 fundamentals,
Yeah,
your process, you're not going to get the ROI on that process and the sales results that you want.
exactly.
Yeah, it's the fundamentals are timeless. I agree with you. What keeps you awake at night about your own business?
We see so many companies that are looking for help and ideas, and I think it's a matter of keeping a focus on who our target market is and
Mm-hmm.
where we do our best work, and then staying true to that focus. So it's easy to be veered off by new ideas and initiatives and things that come along, and so I think just staying true to our core is really important.
Mm-hmm. And so for someone that's a CEO of a small business or a sales leader in a small business, what's the key to staying focused?
From my perspective, I think the key is to be very clear on what it is that you do best and who you do your best work with. Put it in writing, put it on the wall at your company, share it with your employees, make sure everyone understands so that it's the message isn't diluted anywhere, and then keep talking about it at your, weekly, quarterly, periodic meetings that
Mm-hmm.
you have so that everyone's on the same page and so you can keep moving forward in that direction.
Yeah, because sometimes opportunities that present themselves, even though they may be interesting opportunities, they're not a fit with the long-term direction. I mean, I've seen too many companies get distracted by sort of this one-off deal that ultimately sort of drags them down.
Yeah. Yeah, and we some of us are more ADD-ish than others. And so, it's easy to see something new and think that it's better. The grass is always greener, right?
Exactly, exactly. All right, so I want to ask you some sort of rapid-fire questions here. You can be as as brief or as verbose as you want to be in answering.
I'll be brief.
So, what's the most powerful sales tool in your arsenal?
CRM.
CRM. Okay. So, who's your sales role model? And once you answer it, who was your sales role model at the beginning and who is now?
Well, definitely my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
We called her Mimi. Her name is Lorene Hall. I'm actually a namesake, so my full name is Lorene.
I didn't.
And
I did. First time I heard that.
so she was my role model, and I think now I think there are I have multiple role models in different niches and industries. So I can't pick just one, but I've
Yes.
definitely been influenced by Jill Conrath for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Trish Bertuzzi, who's local to me,
Right.
and lots of peers that you and I have.
Yeah, I've been influenced by Jill too. As I told her once, I look at what she does and I try to copy it.
Oh, she's unbelievable.
So, what's the one book that every salesperson should read?
Yours?
Ah, that was
Good
not. I was
answer.
not. I was not fishing for that.
My future book called Sales Gems is going to be out next year.
Oh, excellent. So, what's that about?
It's about a multifaceted tie into Sales Gems,
Mm-hmm.
multifaceted approach to sales prospecting.
Excellent. All right, and that will be available when?
Beginning of the year, I'm going to say January. That's what we're looking at right now.
Okay. So, everybody, put that on your calendar. Look
Yeah.
for Sales Gems in January. All right, your favorite music to listen to psych yourself up for a sales call.
Oh, I'm jazz all the way.
So,
Love
who?
love jazz. Oh, anybody. You name it. The old some of the old jazz. I like guys like Wynton Marsalis
Mm-hmm.
and any of the older jazz that's been around for a while. It's great for me.
Good. What's the first sales activity you do every day?
I write,
Okay. Your blog?
yes, or some type of content.
Okay. What's the one most important thing a new or inexperienced salesperson should focus on to improve?
Listening,
And how do they?
listening skills
And,
with around them and within their team
mm-hmm.
and with their buyers
How do they practice that?
by keeping their mouth closed and learning about really powerful questions that they can ask that will elicit insight to them.
Right. And I would add is when you ask a question, to your point, listen, be in the moment and listen, and don't be thinking about the next question you need to ask.
Right, and that's human nature too. Is that
Mm-hmm.
that's why people forget people's names when they're introduced.
Right. Exactly.
They're so busy thinking about what I'm going to say when you're done talking.
So what's your favorite social media tool and why?
I'm a big Twitter fan.
Okay.
I'm also a big LinkedIn fan,
Mm-hmm.
and we get most of our inbound leads come from Twitter, LinkedIn, and blogging all together.
Right.
So I got to put that as a trio.
So what do you do to keep healthy?
Oh, I swim.
Oh, you do?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
So master swimming or just on your own?
I do swimming. I can get to the pool early in the morning after I'm done writing, and I often do things like water aerobics,
Mm-hmm.
hydro classes, and
No, excellent.
things like that. Yeah.
Excellent. Great exercise. Yeah, I'm a swimmer as well. The one question you get asked most frequently by salespeople is
How do I get more organized?
interesting. What do you tell them?
Yeah. The number one question is where do I get better leads?
Right.
And number two is how can I get or stay more organized? So I talk to them a lot about self-management. There really isn't time management. It's how you
Mm-hmm.
manage yourself
Mm-hmm.
and how I think the biggest thing is putting important things that aren't urgent but important, like being organized in your calendar and making time to do things.
All right. Love it. Name one tool you use today for sales management that you can't live without.
That I can't live without.
Or it could be your personal management.
I mean, I'm still going to go with CRM. I think that's the
Okay.
backbone.
Which one
for
do you
everything.
use?
We actually use two for two different reasons, but we use Pipeliner and
Mm-hmm.
we use HubSpot,
Got it. Okay.
which is came out recently as a great built-in CRM
Right.
too.
To their marketing automation tool.
Yeah.
All right. Last question for you before we sign off. What do you consider your greatest success outside of work?
Well, it would be raising an awesome son, I would have to say. Heads above anything I've ever done. There's nothing harder to do and more rewarding than parenting. And And I think that that's, pretty clear for a lot of people.
Well, as you should be, and now you sort of have the ultimate reward, which is to be a grandparent.
Yeah, yeah. My son just got his master's not too long ago, and they're really zooming in their world, so they're doing really well, which is
Excellent.
great. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, that's great. Well, I want to thank you for being our guest today. We've been talking to Lori Richardson, founder and CEO of Score More Sales. So you can visit her website at scoremoresales.com. And as we spoke about in depth, as Lori is also president of Women Sales Pros, and really called a informational support group for women who are in the sales profession and want to be in the sales profession, working hard to get more women into the sales profession. So make sure to visit their website at women, WOMEN, salespros.com. And remember, make it a part of your day every day to learn something new to help you amp up your business. And until next time, this is Andy Paul. Good selling, everyone. Thanks for listening to the show. If you like what you heard and want to make sure you don't miss any upcoming episodes, please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher.com. For more information about today's guest, visit my website at andypaul.com.